Hey YouTubers, this is the GSTV reviewer coming at you with another video for you guys today. So I just want to come up on here and decide to give you guys my thoughts concerning about the newest Power Ranger season that just premiered its first episode this past week. And that happens to be the 26th season of Power Rangers, that being Beast Morphers. Now, overall, I gotta say, I was genuinely impressed by this episode. And, going into Beast Morphers, it's like my status as a Power Rangers fan has kind of severely waned down in recent memory. I mean, with everything that's been happening during the Neo Saban era, as far as the Target demo is concerned. Now, granted, Power Rangers has always been targeted to a much younger audience, but with the way that the Neo Saban Power Ranger seasons have been in recent years, it just kind of feels like it's very, like, maybe too overly sugar coated. And there's just a lot of very questionable storylines and ideas that have been unfolding. If you look at the ending of Dino Supercharge, where you had the Power Rangers going back in time in order to stop Sledge from destroying the dinosaurs the way he did. And then once the Power Rangers destroyed Sledge during the prehistoric age, when they returned to the present day, that now the dinosaurs are all of a sudden exist, like they never died out, they never gone extinct. They even had like some kind of dinosaur museum. And it was just very, very cringe inducing, even watching that as a viewer. You transition over to the following season, that particularly being Ninja Steel, really stooped to an all-time low for me as a fan, and especially with the comic reliefs of that season playing a reasonably huge part as to why I kind of decided to kind of hang it up after a couple episodes, because their comedy shtick just wasn't really for me, and they were just basically trying to kind of take over the entire episode. Like, they'd get a lot of screen time, and they'd be doing all these over the top cartoony antics. I mean, especially if we're talking like live action standards. And they just try to kind of make it, make it even more child friendly with a lot of gross humor implemented on there. So that also had a big part as the reason why I kind of dropped out of Ninja Steel after a couple episodes. Now that Hasbro had purchased the Power Rangers franchise from Saban, so it kind of gave me a little bit of hope that perhaps when Power Rangers premieres the following season after Ninja Steel, that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance of a glimmering hope that perhaps the franchise could really convince me to kind of stick around and to kind of continue watching the franchise, even through all the changes that have been going on throughout the years. So I kind of decided to kind of stick around and decide to, out of curiosity, to watch the first episode of Beast Morphers. The first couple minutes of Beast Unleashed, I was actually really impressed, especially from the first couple minutes where, as opposed to what we've been having with Power Rangers in the recent seasons, where they always open up with the opening narration, and you have this narrator just discussing about just the whole premise of the season and how the villains kind of started doing what they did, and then that the Power Rangers are going to come out there to save the day. That kind of shtick. And we did not get that here at Beast Morphers, at least not in this very episode. I'm not sure exactly that they're going to bring that back in the following episode, where they'll just bring back the opening narration, but depending on when I get to upload this video on YouTube, but maybe by the time that I upload that video, then this video might be a little bit outdated by now. But getting back to what I was saying here, so I was actually pretty shocked. Like, the first couple minutes, it just starts right away, just kind of gives us a little bit of an introduction as to what's been going on, and talking about, in terms of Beast Morphers being more like a tech-based season, is what I'm trying to say here. You have this government agency trying to develop a new technology in order to create the Power Rangers of the season. So they really kind of tapped into the Power Rangers mythology in this episode, and especially with the expanding on the mythology behind the existence of the Morphing Grid, which has normally been kind of the source that's been used in order to have the civilians be able to transform them into the Power Rangers. So I really liked how they kind of expanded a little bit on that Morphing Grid. And I definitely really like how this season the Power Rangers will be a lot more emphasized on the technology side of things, especially much like, what SPD and Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. It's like this season's kind of more like government based. And there was actually a pretty unique scene. We get to see the Red Ranger of our season. I believe his name was Devin, if I'm not mistaken. There was a bit of a martial arts scene in the juice bar that's sort of kind of reminding me of Ernie's juice bar in the original Power Rangers, and maybe even a little bit in Megaforce with a different Ernie, obviously. But it does kind of harkens back a little bit to either Day of the Dumpster as well as the first episode of Jungle Fury, where you have Devin playing the role of Casey in that particular position. And then you also have a character named Blaze, who originally was going to be the Red Ranger. And he's kind of like sort of the antithesis to Devin, kind of like, basically what Jared was to Casey as far as their rivalry in Jungle Fury was concerned. When we find out that he's the son of the mayor, and so Devin's kind of like this overachiever, and he feels like he's not really being given a big challenge, but also wants to kind of, wants to make something out of himself. And that when Devin and his father were engaged in this conversation in the limousine, Devin's just trying to figure out what he wants to do in his life. And as the episode goes on, he ends up infiltrating the government facility. I believe it's called Grid Battle Force. I could be wrong about that, but it was some sort of a government facility. And he's very interested to find out just the experiment behind the introduction of the Power Rangers when you have these three young civilians being recruited in this sort of like experiment that's being simulcasted in front of the entire world to see. So at some point, we get to see, obviously, Blaze being the martial arts instructor to Devin from earlier in that episode, being one of those three. And then you also have Roxy, who happens to be the Blue Ranger's girlfriend. I believe his name was it Ravi or Ravi? I know I'm going to probably screw up on pronunciations, so bear with me. Ravi and Roxy. So it turns out that they were actually boyfriend and girlfriend at one point, but there was actually a little bit of a scene in the moments prior to the experiment that Ravi had a little bit of a pep talk with Roxy that, according to the rule book, that they weren't able to date now that once they become Power Rangers. And that's kind of one of those interesting things that I kind of could understand, as far as, being co-workers inside of the confines of a government facility, because being a Power Ranger does have a lot of responsibilities, just like any other particular occupation that you could possibly be working for. 9 times out of 10, there's might be some falling out. I really like how they managed to have the Blue Ranger's girlfriend would eventually become a villain. So at some point, you had this computer virus named Evox, who ends up infiltrating the Grid Battle Force mainframe and causes these two evil avatars to come along and causing them to render Roxy and Blaze unconscious. So just when they're about to get Ravi, he gets rescued by Devin and eventually Zoe. And so there's a fight scene that ensues with Blaze and Roxy's evil avatars and the tech advisor. I believe his name was Nate Silva. But yeah, so he's basically going to be the tech advisor, and he also has a little bit of a hand in helping out the Power Rangers, allowing Devin, Zoe, and Ravi to become the Power Rangers of this season. There were some pretty good fight scenes that they did, and even also a little bit of strategy being emphasize as well in order to thwart off Blaze and Roxy's evil avatars. So I definitely really like the fight scene towards the end of the episode. We also get the commander-in-chief, who happens to be the mother of the Blue Ranger. So there's also going to be a really big usage of the parents of the season, which I really feel that, we don't really get a lot in Power Rangers. Like, on occasions we would get, like, maybe in Lightspeed Rescue, where you had, Captain Mitchell being Dana's father and eventually Ryan, when his children would become Power Rangers. This is kind of like one of those very rare occasions in Power Rangers where we actually have parents play a big role in a Power Rangers season, especially with Ravi having his relationship with his mother, who happens to be on a higher position at the government facility that they work in. And you also factor in Devin, the Red Ranger, who also has his thing going on with the mayor. A bit of a father-son sort of conflict that would ensue, but it seems like that's going to be kind of like a recurring theme that will occur throughout the most of Beast Morphers. As of this moment, the mayor has no idea that his son is a Power Ranger, doesn't know the identities whatsoever. So I definitely would be interested just to see how that'll play out. And it'll only be a matter of time before the mayor will eventually find out that his son, Devin, is a Power Ranger. And we also have Zoe, the Yellow Ranger, and I definitely like what I've seen of her. She's very courageous and someone that would do anything and, not hold herself back. Whenever she sees trouble, then, she'll be going out there, taking initiative, taking matters in her own hands. So I really like that kind of personality trait behind what I've seen of Zoe so far. The Power Rangers of the season seem to be pretty multi-dimensional so far. I definitely really like to see just how things will play out over the course of Beast Morphers. I definitely really like how it seems like everyone's kind of all intertwined, sort of like a family unit. I mean, not just like biologically, but also like in terms of just the kind of relationship that you and your coworkers would have, and just how strong of a unit that you are. Hopefully I'm making sense out of this, but that's going to be something I feel like that's also going to be a big common theme throughout the 26th season of Power Rangers. So it's also something that I'm really looking forward to. The theme song of the season, I mean, obviously they're still using Go Go Power Rangers, which I'm really starting to get tired of, if I haven't been tired enough of hearing that already. I know it's a very iconic theme, especially going back to Mighty Morphin, but since Saban purchased the rights back from Disney, it's like they're always trying so hard to kind of recapture that MMPR magic that they had. Some of that even applies now that we're kind of transitioning over to the Hasbro era, but it also feels kind of like a mandate that it seems like every theme from this point on has to be Go Go Power Rangers. And I get that it's like a very notable theme that the general public associates Power Rangers with. When they think of the Power Rangers theme song, you can't get away hearing the theme song without hearing Go Go Power Rangers. It just, like, I get that it's very, like, it's supposed to represent kind of like the legacy behind the season, or the legacy behind just the entire franchise. But at the same time, it's like, how many times are we going to hear that? It's like, do we constantly have to kind of over-rely on, like, the nostalgia aspect of the series in order to kind of get eyes on the current season of Power Rangers, So that's kind of one of those things that kind of peeves me. But, I mean, what can you do, really? I think that's really all I have to say about this general review for Power Rangers Beast Morphers, the premiere episode, that being Beast Unleashed. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down in the comment section below. What were some of your favorite moments of that episode? And what do you look forward to the most in the newest season of Power Rangers? So let me know down in the comment section below. I would gladly appreciate hearing some of your guys' feedback. And hopefully I definitely look forward to more episodes. Yeah, so thank you all guys for watching. And till next time, this is the GSTV Reviewer signing out.